And it's so important to be in circles of people who know your pain and have experienced what you've experienced, even when you cannot put words in it. Consider, just evaluate, what do you need to start new? What might you need to do? The next lane of folks, this is where a lot of people are in this church. Did you know that it's going to take like almost 400 servants to make Easter happen? Almost 400 people. There is a lot of servants here. And we put a lot of focus on serving because even Jesus, the Son of God, came to serve and not be served. But here in this lane, here's where we can get in the way of our own healing. We replace being with Jesus with busy for Jesus. We replace being with Jesus with busy for Jesus. That means we serve, but we don't sit with Jesus. See, even for Jesus, Jesus modeled it well. How he served people came from an overflow of what he has experienced. And if you and I are serving and we are not positioned weekly in a posture of surrender, the likelihood of the people that we serve experiencing us instead of the Holy Spirit gets really high. And I don't know about you, but I don't want people to experience me. I want people to experience the Holy Spirit. I want them to get to know Jesus. I don't want them to get to know me. But that's where we get that mixed up. We just get busy, and do all the things for Jesus, but we mistake sitting with Jesus. Jesus, when we're looking at him in Mark, this is the busiest season of his ministry. People were confessing what Jesus had done, and he was drawing these really giant crowds. And now in these confessions, some people were really genuinely showing up because they wanted to experience healing too, but a lot of them were also showing up because they were skeptical. But because of that confession, there was crowds that were being drawn. He had these really needy disciples that were spiritually and emotionally blind, but didn't know it. He was being pulled in 1,000 directions. His plate was full. But Luke 5:16 tells us this, that even then, even in the busyness of his season, Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. We got to make time for that. We are the only ones that can do that. But it's so our service of others and for God comes from an overflow of our surrender. Consider where you might be replacing being with Jesus with busy for Jesus. And once you've really considered that, then your message notes number 3, just consider how I need to stay with Jesus as you continue to serve. Our third healing story is in Mark chapter 10, verse 46. 2 very new things are about to happen in this healing story. Jesus is in Jericho. The blind man's name is Bartimaeus. And he heard that Jesus was there. And in verse 47, when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him, said, "Be quiet, don't bother him." Verse 49, Jesus stopped and said, "Hang on, call him." So the very people that were just telling him to be quiet said, "Cheer up. He's called you, on your feet." Bartimaeus goes to Jesus. Pay attention to what happens here, verse 51. Jesus simply asks, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has made you healed." He received his sight and he followed Jesus along the road. Notice in the first 2 healing stories, Jesus had to speak and he had to physically touch, and healing happened. In this verse, Jesus stood in front of him and asked him a question. Didn't touch him, didn't say, "You are healed," but he said, "It is your faith that has made you healed." See, in this lane of our spiritual journey, here's where I see other people kind of get stuck as well. In this phase of our spiritual journey, sometimes we're really craving that radical shift that we experienced when we were first exploring Christ. Remember that fire that you first had? In this lane, sometimes it really is kind of feels like, gosh, I just really want that seismic change to happen. But here, it's not so seismic. In fact, from the outside looking in, our first 2 healing stories, we would see a change happening. In this story, we can't necessarily see a change happening from the outside looking in. But please don't get confused. The small changes that God needs to make in us, the small adjustments that he needs to make in our character every single day are just as seismic and just as impactful as it was when we were exploring. So if you ever get caught saying, gosh, I just want to be on fire for Jesus like I was, you still are. It's okay that it's a simmer. The fire is still just as bright and just as powerful no matter what size it is. Allow it to be there. Allow it to be there. Consider how I stay with Jesus and then share how Jesus healed me through serving. In this story, we finally see someone who has been healed follow Jesus along the road. Consider how you stay with Jesus. Stay with Jesus through your life steps, through quiet time, through prayer time, doing the 609 prayer with us every single day. Consider how you stay with Jesus so that when you do start sharing how Jesus has healed you, it is coming from an overflow of your surrender with him.